In a stunning turn of events, Beyoncé pulled off what many are calling the most satisfying revenge in music history. After being systematically shut out by the country music industry, she returned with an album that not only dominated the charts but forced country music to confront its own history. At the Grammys, she achieved the unthinkable, winning both Best Country Album and Album of the Year. To understand the magnitude of this achievement, we must delve into the historical context of black artists in country music. Throughout history, these artists have faced significant barriers, struggling for radio play, award recognition, and acceptance within the genre's institutions. Beyoncé was no exception. In 2016, when she performed at the Country Music Awards, the backlash was swift and ugly. Critics questioned her authenticity, and many rejected the idea that a black woman could claim space within the genre. This moment served as a precursor to the challenges she would face in the years to come. By 2024, her album Cowboy Carter was completely ignored by the Country Music Association, CMA, despite topping the country charts. The snub was glaring, especially considering that the album showcased not only her vocal prowess but also a deep-rooted connection to the genre's history. Beyoncé has spent her career mastering every genre she touches, from R&B to pop to dance music, yet country music was always the one space that rejected her. Her journey to acceptance in this genre is a testament to her resilience and determination. The roots of country music can be traced back to a fusion of musical traditions in the American South. While it has become widely associated with white rural culture, its foundations were deeply influenced by black musicians. The banjo, a West African instrument, became essential to the genre after being adopted by white musicians in the 19th century. The integration of African rhythmic and melodic structures, including polyrhythms and call-and-response patterns, shaped the storytelling traditions that define country music today. However, as the genre transitioned from an informal folk tradition to a commercially viable genre in the 1920s and 1930s, the music industry intentionally segregated black and white artists. The result was a genre that, by the mid-20th century, had become almost entirely associated with white rural culture, despite its deeply mixed origins. The exclusion of black artists from country music continued throughout the century, with only a few exceptions. Charlie Pride, the genre's most successful black artist, achieved several firsts, becoming the first black singer to perform at the Grand Ole Opry and winning CMA Entertainer of the Year in 1971. Yet, the industry treated him as an exception rather than proof of black artists' rightful place in country music. It took almost 4 decades after Pride's breakthrough for Darius Rucker to win a CMA award when he received New Artist of the Year in 2009. Even in recent years, country music institutions have been slow to acknowledge black artists. Tracy Chapman made history in 2023 as the first black woman to win a CMA award, yet this recognition came 35 years after she originally released Fast Car. Such late acknowledgement is emblematic of how black artists are often only accepted in country music when their work is validated through white artists. The industry's resistance to black artists was already apparent back in 2019 when Lil Nas X's song Old Town Road went viral. The song, which blended country and hip-hop elements, initially climbed the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart but was controversially removed by Billboard, which argued that it didn't embrace enough elements of today's country music. This decision was widely criticized as many pointed out that white country artists had incorporated influences from other genres without facing exclusion. The controversy exposed the double standards within the industry, where black artists face stricter genre policing than their white counterparts. Her first direct attempt at engaging with country music came with Daddy Lessons, from her album Lemonade in 2016. However, when Beyoncé performed the song at the Country Music Awards alongside the Dixie Chicks, now known as the Chicks, the backlash was immediate and intense. Despite being the highest-rated 15 minutes of the entire broadcast, the performance was met with a flood of racist vitriol online. Critics questioned her country authenticity, with some openly rejecting the idea that a black woman could claim space within the genre. The controversy was further fueled by Beyoncé's support for the Black Lives Matter movement, with detractors using her activism as a reason to discredit her presence in country music. The hostility she faced from the audience was matched by institutional rejection when she submitted "Daddy Lessons" for consideration in the country categories at the Grammys. The country committee refused to recognize it as a country song, a decision that was widely criticized, particularly given that pop-leaning tracks by white artists were accepted into the same categories. This exclusion highlighted the double standard black artists face when engaging with the genre. Despite this resistance, Beyoncé didn't give up on her country ambitions. Instead, the backlash to "Daddy Lessons" laid the groundwork for her return to the genre nearly a decade later, this time on her own terms, with an album that would force country music to reckon with its past and its future. However, despite all this momentum, Beyoncé's road to the 2025 Grammys was marked by blatant industry rejection. In September 2024, the Country Music Association snubbed Beyoncé entirely at the CMAs, failing to nominate Cowboy Carter in any category. The snub was particularly glaring given that country radio and Nashville institutions had embraced Cowboy Carter's collaborators, like Shabzy and even Post Malone, who received nominations while Beyoncé was completely shut out. Luke Bryan, one of country's biggest stars, attempted to justify the snub by suggesting Beyoncé hadn't come into their world enough. He stated, "If you're going to make country albums, come into our world and be country with us a little bit." This statement reignited debates about who gets to be considered a real country artist and whether the industry was willing to embrace the genre's black roots. As the country's biggest institutions shuttered Beyoncé out, the focus turned to the Grammys. Beyoncé's 11 Grammy nominations for Cowboy Carter, including Album of the Year and Best Country Album, made her the most nominated artist in Grammy history, bringing her career total to 99 nominations. The question loomed: would the Recording Academy follow the CMA's lead and shut her out, or would they embrace her groundbreaking work? When the 2025 Grammy Awards finally arrived, Beyoncé's moment of reckoning with the music industry played out in real time. The win was unprecedented. Beyoncé became the first black woman in Grammy history to win Best Country Album. But the night wasn't over. In the show's biggest moment, Beyoncé took home Album of the Year, making her the first black woman to win the award in over 2 decades. The Academy had a long history of awarding Beyoncé in smaller categories while denying her Album of the Year. As one presenter noted, "I don't want to embarrass this young lady, but she has more Grammys than everyone and never won Album of the Year." With Cowboy Carter, the Recording Academy corrected a historic oversight, not just for Beyoncé but for black artists who had been excluded from country music for generations. While the artistic merits of the album clearly played a role, Beyoncé's victory wasn't just about the music. It was the result of a confluence of industry politics, Grammy voting shifts, cultural narratives, and strategic career decisions that all aligned to make this the moment when the Recording Academy finally recognized her with its top prize. One of the most significant factors in Beyoncé's win was her genre shift. After multiple Album of the Year losses, she finally won, but it took making a country album to do it. Historically, the Grammys have demonstrated a clear preference for certain genres in the Album of the Year category. While hip-hop, R&B, and dance albums dominate the industry in terms of commercial impact and cultural influence, they've rarely won Album of the Year. The Grammys tend to favor pop, rock, and folk music, which are perceived as more in line with the Academy's idea of musical excellence. Beyoncé had already lost Album of the Year with Lemonade in 2017 and Renaissance in 2023. By shifting to country, a Grammy-friendly genre, she may have created an album that was more palatable to voters who historically resisted her past work. Beyond the genre shift, the album was also a conceptual and historical statement. Unlike a straightforward pop-country album, Cowboy Carter was a deeply researched project that reclaimed country music's black roots, positioning Beyoncé not just as a genre hopper but as an artist reshaping the conversation about country music's history and ownership. This kind of artistic ambition aligns with the type of albums the Grammys typically reward, particularly in recent years, where there has been a shift toward honoring culturally significant, genre-expanding works. Albums like Casey Musgrave's Golden Hour and Jon Batiste's We Are demonstrated that Grammy voters favored projects that challenged and redefined genre boundaries while maintaining accessibility. Beyoncé's approach to country, which is both reverent and disruptive, positioned Cowboy Carter as a strong contender for Grammy recognition. Another major factor in Beyoncé's win was the Grammys' need for redemption. For years, the Recording Academy has faced accusations of systemic bias against black artists, particularly in the major categories. While Beyoncé holds the record for most Grammy wins with 35 awards, the fact that she had never won Album of the Year had become an embarrassment for the institution. In recent years, the Grammy Awards have attempted to repair their reputation, including expanding their voting membership to be more diverse, thus awarding not only Beyoncé but also Kendrick Lamar. As of 2025, 40% of Grammy voters were people of color, and 37% were under the age of 40. This new generation of voters is more inclined to embrace genre-blending albums, progressive storytelling, and artists who challenge the status quo. Had this vote happened a decade ago, Beyoncé may have faced the same barriers that kept her from winning before. However, in 2025, the combination of a changing voter base and a powerful Grammy campaign likely helped push Cowboy Carter over the edge. In the end, Beyoncé's victory was not just about one album, it was about everything that led up to this moment. It was about her career-long battle for Grammy recognition, her strategic move into a more Grammy-friendly genre, the cultural and industry-wide reckoning with race and country music, and a Recording Academy eager to correct past wrongs. Perhaps most importantly, Beyoncé's win proved that country music can no longer ignore the black artists who helped create it. By winning both Album of the Year and Best Country Album, she didn't just break barriers, she forced an entire industry to acknowledge its own history. Beyoncé's Grammy wins serve as a powerful reminder of how misunderstood artists can be when they challenge genre expectations. Yet she is not the only one facing this issue. Another artist is making waves globally, but many listeners are struggling to understand her culture. This moment in music history opens the door for further discussions about representation, authenticity, and the ongoing evolution of genres. As we move forward, it's crucial to recognize the contributions of artists from all backgrounds and to celebrate the diversity that enriches our musical landscape.